Hello and welcome to NOVARISE. Today we're going to talk about the 7 worst states to buy real estate in the next 5 years according to experts. Yes, I know, another bad news, but this episode has a little bit of a positive spin into it. According to the article that I'm about to share, these are the 7 worst states to buy real estate. But ironically, I happen to invest in 2 of them, and they're actually not so bad. So I wanted to share this episode with you to sort of like show you that everything has to have context. This article was actually very one-sided, and I wanted to take this opportunity to share with you that you have to take everything with a grain of salt. You have to trust but verify. Read the news, take the information, process it, and then start researching how much of this piece of information is accurate and how much of it it's based on an opinion of just one individual. So without further ado, let's go through the list and see how that actually impacts you, regardless of whether you're trying to buy real estate to invest or as your primary home. So here you have it, courtesy of Yahoo Finance and Gold Banking Rates. And according to experts, the list that we're about to see, these are the 7 worst states for you to buy real estate. And not just that, the worst states to buy real estate in the next 5 years. So according to this article, California made it to the top of the list. According to what we see here, California does offer stunning scenery and a vibrant culture and near perfect weather. I can test that myself. But the affordability is an issue. And according to some experts, it's not just the high cost of living that it's a problem, but there's also the struggles with issues like wildfires and droughts, which makes homeownership even more challenging and expensive. Yes, it's true. We have heard a lot in the news about the wildfires and droughts, but I find it a little bit difficult to believe that all of California it's consumed by wildfires, so to speak. And then in addition to this, areas like the Bay Area has driven housing prices to astronomical levels, pushing many to seek refuge in more affordable states. Once again, I don't necessarily agree. I just did a quick search in Google. All I had to do was to type in areas in California where you can still find affordable housing and look at the big list that Google is showing. We have Bakersfield, Chico, Eureka, Fresno, Sacramento, Clovis, Clear Lake. This is a big list, right? And don't take my word for it. I actually went into Zillow to try to see like how accurate this information was. So once again, when you look into the state of California, it's not just San Francisco and the Bay Area or just LA and all you see about LA, right? California, it's a pretty big state. Look at all the cities. And the dots here that you see, it's a quick search that I did for properties that were up to $300,000. So whatever listing that you see here are properties with a maximum price of $300,000. And no, these are not manufactured homes. These are actual homes. Look at this one over here in Santa Clarita, California. The property price is $290,000. And we're talking about a decent size home, right? Maybe it's not a mansion, but this property over here has a very nice curb appeal. And when you look at the inside, it still looks pretty good. It looks like a good home that was well taken care of. So I don't necessarily agree with the statement in the article talking about how unaffordable. Probably there are less options to choose from, but I wouldn't necessarily call something like this unaffordable. Here's another property here in Tulare, California, $299,900. Nice curb appeal. Again, maybe not LA, but I mean, it looks pretty decent to me. It looks like a good home. It looks like a family actually resides there and a family that actually takes care of the property. So once again, don't believe everything you see. Just always trust but verify. Now, back to this article, we have another that made it to the list, and that's Florida. And this one is not shocking, but at the same time, it's kind of shocking. I actually invest in Florida. Every state, every investment is going to come with its risk. There's no such thing as an investment-free asset. Everything is going to come with a risk, but it's a matter of doing the proper research and analyzing what works out for you and what not. So in this particular example, let's look at the article. The experts in this article are saying that yes, Florida is a sunny paradise for many retirees, but one bad storm can quickly make things a nightmare, possibly. And then it talks about the state location makes it extremely vulnerable to hurricanes and rising sea levels driven by climate change. Interesting. So now let's take a look at this map right here. So this is the state of Florida. From end to end, one way, the drive of Florida, it's somewhere between 6 to 8 hours, depending on how fast you drive. 6 to 8 hours is not a small state. We're not talking about a round trip thing. 6 to 8 hours, just one way going from one end to the other end. That means that the state of Florida is definitely more than just Miami or Fort Lauderdale or West Palm Beach or St. Augustine or Palm Coast or Daytona. There are plenty of cities that are more inland. So whenever you hear the news, once again, try to take everything with a grain of salt because chances are they're most likely covering the coastal cities. Remember, the news don't sell unless it's about bad news, right? We're humans. So one way or the other, we're actually wired to survive. So there's a chance that when you see something positive in the news, you're less inclined to watch it because you're thinking, oh, I already got that covered. It's nice to know from the headline that things are good. But when you see something negative, you have to find out. You have to see what's happening so that you can better prepare. And the news know that. That's why most of the headlines tend to be negative news. But what happens when you dive into those negative news? You get consumed by it. You don't necessarily prepare. In fact, if anything, you actually get paralyzed by it. And that's why we created this channel, to show you that there is a solution for everything, except for debt, right? But other than that, chances are you will possibly find a solution. Maybe not necessarily a solution that you like, but there's a solution to everything. So when you come back into this article, you realize that investing in Florida is not an all lost cause because there is plenty of land in the middle, right? So if the issues are hurricanes hitting your properties or flooding your properties, then try to buy properties that are more inland, something that it's less of an issue when that wind starts hitting the entire city or the area that you're planning to invest or buy your property in. So for example, I invest a lot in Ocala. I like Ocala because it's more inland. And if flooding is an issue, then that's why you do the planning, right? That's why you work with builders or you hire an architect to help you elevate the property. The higher the elevation from the sea level, the less chances that your property is going to get flooded or hit by a horrible storm. So once again, not all is bad in Florida. Just have to know where exactly to invest. You don't necessarily have to live in the middle of everything. You can still live at a relative distance and where you can quickly get there by driving, and you get the best of both worlds. You get something that is more affordable without compromising on being present in the area that you would like to live in or invest in. The next horrible state to purchase property is Illinois. So according to the expert here, Illinois is known for its big cities and expansive farmlands. And Illinois is a major manufacturing center for food, chemicals, rubber products, and more. I mean, sounds like this person is actually trying to sell us Illinois. But there's always a but, right? Illinois, and specifically Chicago, faces significant financial woes. The state has some of the highest property taxes in the country, and Chicago is grappling with a high crime rate and budget deficits, leading to cuts in essential services and increased taxes. Look, just like with every city, I'm sure that when you go to a city, there are areas that are pretty good and there are areas that are not so good. Real estate is highly localized, and a piece of news like this should not stigmatize the entire state. Just remember that Chicago is only part of the bigger picture. In fact, let me show you right now. If you look at this map in Zillow, this is all of Illinois. So the experts in the article that I'm sharing are stigmatizing the entire state. And I find it really hard to believe that the entire state, it's bad. Otherwise, how do you justify people who happen to be living there? And then they talk about Chicago. Chicago is just at the very tip of Illinois. I'm sure that there are other areas in here that are worth either investing in real estate or purchasing your real estate. In fact, there's an area here that I wanted to share with you, and that's the area of Champaign in Illinois. Why did I consider this area? Well, it's because of the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. There's a location right there. And I thought that maybe it would be a good idea to actually put my money into student housing. Why not? But then you know what happened during the pandemic, the schools closed, and chances are everything was done remotely. But it was a possibility. So this is the area, Champaign, and this is Urbana, and then this is Campus Town. So just look at the possibilities in the area nearby. And not all of this look like it's in a high crime area. Otherwise, how do you justify sending students over there? I'm sure security is tight because the University of Illinois cannot afford getting into a scandal. So you just have to keep those facts in check. Now, when you're not sure, do your research, and possibly, if you can, try to contact a local agent. You can easily find them somewhere down here by calling the listing agent and learning more about the area, learning more about the crime rate, what does it have to offer, the walkability. Look at the ratings. Some of these ratings are not so bad. Number 3 out of 10. So definitely something worth considering. Look at the pictures right here. Not bad for $215,000 right here. This property looks like it's in a pretty good condition and also has a pretty nice curb appeal. The following state that made it to the list of the worst states to buy real estate is Louisiana. I don't personally know much about Louisiana, but it looks like it has a reputation for good times, delicious food, and rich culture. And is highly susceptible to climate change impacts, such as hurricanes and flooding. I'm sure Louisiana has a lot of residents and a lot of people. And once you start digging about ways to mitigate those potential floods and hurricanes, I'm sure that your property will be somewhat protected against those risks. Just like the way my Florida properties were protected, because I made sure that everything was built either up to code or that any renovation that needed to be done was done up to code to better protect your property against hurricanes or flooding, right? Next state that made it to the list is New Jersey. We recently had a live event and where we hosted about 300 people. And some of them actually came from New Jersey. And I didn't hear a single complaint about people living in New Jersey. Yes, it is true, according to what the experts are saying here. New Jersey does have high property taxes. But one thing to keep in mind is that New Jersey doesn't have city taxes. So whatever you can possibly pay in city taxes in a state like New York, for example, you don't have to pay those in New Jersey. So one way or the other, whatever you're saving, quote unquote, in city taxes, those are being redirected towards the property taxes. And in fact, from people that I know, New Jersey has some of the best schools in the nation. So there's a reason why so many New Yorkers with children are actually moving to New Jersey, because they want to offer the best education possible for their children. Then aside from that, it's saying that New Jersey is dealing with an exodus of major corporations, which impacts job availability. I don't necessarily agree with this, because when I do a quick, simple search in Indeed.com, I find 40,000 jobs available just in the state of New Jersey alone. And we're talking about a variety of jobs, not just some random jobs that offer no pay whatsoever. Look at this one, $52,000 to $95,000 a year. We have $24 to $27 an hour, another full-time job at $72,000 a year. So these are not just random weird jobs that came out of nowhere. $106,000 to $146,000 a year. So you see, once you start analyzing, you realize that everything needs context. Now, back to this article, another issue that they talk about is the congestion in traffic, especially for those commuting into New York City, which can be quite a frustration. Not everyone in New Jersey works in New York City, just so you know. The state, it's quite big, once again, and there are plenty of jobs throughout the state of New Jersey, and not everyone needs to deal with the actual commuting and the daily frustration. Especially nowadays with telecommuting, people have more and more opportunities to work from home. So once again, take everything with a grain of salt. Now, the next worst state to invest in is New York, which in fact happens to be the state where I live in, right? So according to the experts, beyond the high property taxes and cost of living in New York, there's also the matter of aging infrastructure. I don't necessarily agree with that statement, because when you put things into context, New Jersey actually has higher property taxes than New York. And once again, New York is a big state. It's not just New York City, right? So when you start comparing property taxes with other areas in the US, the property taxes in New York are not necessarily as high. Now, in terms of the aging infrastructure, okay, there's some truth to it, but as far as I know, and I've lived in the city for a lot of years, the subway system could be one of the oldest one in the world, yet it's one of the most efficient one, in my opinion, even though this article is saying that the subway system in New York has been notorious for delays and breakdowns, so making daily commute a headache, right? And so I remember that when I used to commute back and forth to the city, I will typically leave 10 minutes before rush hour. And by doing that, I will actually arrive to work 30 minutes earlier. That doesn't necessarily mean I had to go in to work earlier. Sometimes I did if I had a special project coming up. But for the most part, I would just stay around in the area, either planning my next YouTube video or analyzing some of the deals that I was planning on investing in. So it's all a matter of planning. Yeah, there could be some days in where I will show up late for work because of those delays, but it wasn't an everyday thing. More often than not, I will show up to work on time. So I think it's just a matter of planning accordingly. So I don't necessarily agree with what they're saying in here. Another point that I actually skipped by accident, it's that New York is another infamous high price state in New York. And that's not entirely true. Let me show you. So as you can see here, this is New York State. And New York City is just a tiny little piece here. It's so tiny you can barely see. This is Manhattan. And then there's Long Island with the Hamptons and everything you see in the movies. And then all of this piece of land right here, this is New York State. And so when you do a quick search on Zillow, you will realize that there are far more affordable properties in this area. And even in the city, you can still find something under $300,000. So you have a house in Ozone Park for $275,000. When you take a look at the photos, it looks like it's in pretty good condition. Let's say if I want to go to this area right here, I'm not even going to bother pronouncing this because I don't want to butcher the name, but nice curb appeal, a little dated kitchen, but everything looks like it's livable. And we're not talking about a price that's breaking the bank. Then you come back here and another search. Let's say I want to search somewhere over here. Look at this big house in Endicott, New York, $153,500. Look at that. Livable conditioned, a little dated, nothing that you cannot fix, but nothing major. Look at all that lot. Look at all that lot. So once again, it's all a matter of understanding where you're parking your money, where you're planning on buying, and plan accordingly. And the last state mentioned is West Virginia, known as a coal country, but the industry is declining. Now, I don't necessarily agree with this whole coal industry going away. If anything, I read quite the opposite. There's more need for natural resources to continue to push for the green agenda. So for those who didn't know, every time you are planning on investing in an electric vehicle or doing something that is green, all that technology that goes into it requires massive amount of natural resources, coal, natural gas, all of it to make that one piece of battery. So maybe in West Virginia, things are a little bit different. Maybe there's something going on in the coal industry in here, but coal in itself is not really declining. According to this article, as jobs dried up, the population drains in the small towns. But again, I did a quick search in West Virginia, and there are a total of 7,000 jobs available. And from what I see here, these are stable full-time jobs with a stable yearly salary. This is not just some part-time gig that you are seeing in here. So 85,000, 100,000, human resources business partner. There are jobs, pages and pages of jobs. Once again, bad news are everywhere. They're good to keep you alert, but you have to take everything with a grain of salt. Thank you for tuning in. We will continue to make content like this to keep you informed so you can make the best decision regarding the purchase of your home or your next investment property. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.